Hi students, next topic is software requirement document. Okay, the software requirement document sometimes call out the software requirement specification, nothing but SRS. Okay, this SRS or software requirement specification are the other name for the software requirement document. Okay, what is this SRS? Is an official statement of what the system developer should implement. Okay, this is the official statement. This requirement software requirement document is the official statement of what the developer should implement. Okay, I mean it is like a agreement. What should this developer should implement. Okay, it should include both the user requirement for a system and detailed specification of the system requirement. Means the software requirement document contain the user requirement for a system and detailed specification of the system requirement. Okay, sometimes the user system requirements are integrated into a single description, and also it contains the integration requirement, nothing but the combination of user and system requirement into a single description. Okay, we can also get the single description of the user system requirement. Okay, that will be integrated, means we are going to get the combined requirement of user and the system. Okay, next the requirement document has a reserved set of users running from the senior management of the organization that is paying for the system to the engineer response software. Means this requirement documentation is read by some set of people. Who are that set of people we are going to discuss? One is system customer, second one is managers, second one is system engineer, next one is system test engineers, system maintenance engineers. These are the people who are going to read the software requirement document. Why this system customer will read, okay, or use this document for specify the requirements and read them to check that they meet their needs. Means for specifying the requirement and to cross check the system they are meet their needs or not, so that they are going to use this document. Okay, and customer specify changes to the requirements. For any customer is need any changes, means that is also mentioned here. Okay, next manager use the requirement document to plan a bit for the system and to plan the system development process. Why this manager will use this document? For this purpose. Next system engineers, why they are going to use this software requirement document? Use the requirement to understand what system to be developed. Means the development engineer will use this document to know what should be system should be developed. Okay, next system test engineer use the requirement to develop validation testers for the system. Means to understand the requirement, and here you are going to prepare the test cases. Means testing set will be created, so that this test engineer will use that document. Next system maintenance engineer use the requirement to understand the system and relationship between its parts. Why the maintenance engineer will use this document to understand the system and the relationship inside the part, means to understand the whole system and integration of the parts inside that system should be understand before e maintenance. So these are some set of people who are going to use the document. Next, document. Okay, here you can see that 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, there are 10 chapters. What is this chapters? Okay, document. Before going to this document topic, suppose you having one book, means in book what are the pages you can see. Okay, you take one book, you open it. In first page you can see the title of the book. Next page you can see the some where it is published and which year it is published, what printing company will be the publisher. Like this the detail will be present in next page. Then this book is dedicated to whom, in next page it is present. Next page you can see the content of the book, what are the chapters are present in the book will be printed. In next some pages you can see the lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 4. Okay, up to 8 lesson is there. 8 lesson description will be present. Next, at last you can see the index. Index means what index contain. Using alphabets they are printing some of the important words, meaning of the words or diagrams. You can see that like that only, in document. Okay, so there are some 10 parts. Okay, this document is called the structure of the requirement document. Okay, suppose they are going to ask this question, means they can be asked like this: explain the structure of the requirement document. Means you have to write this 10 points, means you should write in order only. First you should write preface, introduction, glossary, user requirement, definition, system architecture, system requirement specification, system models, system evaluation, appendices, index. Like this in order you should mention this 10 points and you should explain it. Okay, next, it can be, this question can be asked in other way. Okay, explain the standard IEEE structure of requirement document. Explain the IEEE standard for requirement document. Okay, these are the two way you can ask the question. First one is explain the structure of the requirement document, or explain the IEEE standard for requirement document. They are going to ask like this. You have to write this 10 parts, means you should mention in order only. First mention preface. What this preface description? Here this should define the expected relationship of the document and describe its version history, means it's going to describe the version history in indicating a relational for the creation of new version, means it's going to lead for the creating of the new version and a summary of the changes made in each version. This is the preface. In preface only, what is the history means Vinuta means in preface is containing the history of the version. What is the next version? What are the changes made in the current version will be explained in the preface. Okay. Next, introduction. In introduction, there is a description. What description? This should describe the need for the system. It should briefly describe the system function and explain how it will be work with other system. It should also describe how system fit in the overall business or strategic objective of the organization consumption of the software. This is the description of introduction. Means you have to give the introduction of the requirement. Okay, requirement document. What is gallery chapter contains? This should define the technical term, means what are the technical terms we are using in document, that should be mentioned here. Okay, you should not make assumption about the experience or extreme of the reader. Okay, here we are going to mention the technical term used in the document. Okay, next, user requirement definition. Next one is user requirement definition. In user requirement definition, the description here, you describe the service provided for the user. Okay, you are going to describe the service provided by the user will be present, and the non-functional system requirement should be also described in this section. In this section we are also going to describe the non-functional requirement. Okay, next, this description may be use natural language, diagram, other notation that are understandable to customer. Means to explain the user definition, we can use natural language like English. Otherwise, you can use diagram, or you can use some notation. Our intended here, it should be understandable by the customer easily, and that way you have to give the user requirement definition. Okay, next, system architecture. This chapter should present a high level overview of the anticipated system architecture, showing the description of the function across the system model. Okay, architectural component that are reused should be highlighted. Okay, here system architecture means overview of the system structure should be explained here, and function, what are the functions will carry in this system should be present here. Next, reused reused component should be also highlighted in this system architecture. Next one is system requirement specification. Okay, this should describe the functional and non-functional requirement in more detail. In this section, system requirement specification, in this session we are going to describe the functional and non-functional requirement in more detail. In detail again we are going to describe the functional and non-functional requirement. Okay, if necessary, further detail may be added to non-functional requirement. Means if needed, more in further more detail of non-functional also non-functional requirement also added. Next, system models. This may what this section will going to explain. This may induce graphical system model showing the relationship between the system component, the system and its environment. Mean it's going to show the relationship between the system component, the system and its environment, like OS, that are the environment. Okay. Examples of possible models are object model, data flow model, semantic data model. This object model, data flow model, semantic data model will be explained in further classes. In next chapter, in next model, we are going to discuss about this models. Okay. There we come to know what is object model, what is data flow model, what is semantic data model. Means the model explanation will be present in the system model chapter of our document. Next one is system evaluation. What is this system evaluation chapter contains? This should describe the fundamental assumption on which the system is based and may anticipated change due to order evaluation, changing user needs, so on. Nothing but here in this chapter it's going to describe the on what basis we are changing, means updation things will be printed in this system evaluation chapter. This session is useful for system designer as it may helpful them avoiding design discussions what should contain likely future change to the system. First, future change, what are the changes needed that will be present in this chapter. Next chapter is appendices. Okay, this chapter contain the it should provide the detail, means it will going to provide a detail about specific information that is related to application being developed. For example, hardware database description, means it's going to give the specific information that is related to application, means what are the software we are using, what are the hardware we are using, what are the how the database are used, all description will be present here. Suppose hardware requirement define the minimal and optimal configuration for the system. Okay, what is the minimal optional configuration for the system will be used in the system using hardware requirement will be explained. Next, database requirement define the logical organization of the data used by the system and relationship between the data will be explained in the database requirement description. Okay, next chapter is index. Okay, we know that in every book at last you can observe alphabetical index is there, diagram index is there. In alphabetical index means in alphabet, suppose it will start from A. In A, what are the large technical words are there that will be present. After A, B technical words starting with that B letter will be present, like that. That is the index. Here this index contains the several index to the document may be indented as well as normal alphabetical index. There may be an index of diagram or index of function, so on. Some index will be present at the last. Okay, so whenever they are going to ask explain the structure of requirement document or IEEE standard for requirement document, you have to mention these 10 chapters in order only. First, you have to mention preface, next, introduction, glossary, user requirement definition, system architecture, system requirement specification, system model, system evaluation, appendices, and index. You should write in order only. From preface to index, it should be in order only. Next topic is requirement specification. What is requirement specification? Requirement specification is a process of writing down the user and system requirements in requirement document. What you are going to write in the requirement document, that is the software requirement specification. What is meant by software so, software requirement specification is nothing but what you are writing, this process of writing down the user and system requirements in a requirement document, that is the requirement specification. Ideally, the user and system requirements should be clear and unambiguous, easy to understand, complete and consistent. Okay, what you are writing, the requirement like user and system requirement, that should be a clear, unambiguous, easy to understand, and complete and consistent. Okay, it should be in the form of this. On this 5 basis, you should write the user and system requirement. Okay, next, user requirements for a system should describe the functional and non-functional requirements, so they are understandable by the system user who do not have detailed technical knowledge. Means they are telling that whatever you are writing in the requirement document, that should be easily understand by the who does not having the technical knowledge. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಇರಲ್ವೋ ಅಂಥವ್ರು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳೋ ಥರ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ರೈಟ್ ದಿ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ document. Okay, the requirement document should not include details of the system architecture and design. Means the requirement document should not contain the system architecture or design. Next, if you are writing user requirement, you should not use software jargon, nothing but software special words should not be used, and structure notation should not be used, or formal notation should not be used. Means you are writing your user requirement, means you should not use the special words, structure notation, or formal notation. It should not be contained. Okay, next, you should write your user requirement in natural language with simple tables, forms, and intuitive diagrams. You can use this type. You should not use this type of in the user requirements. The system requirements are expanded version of the user requirement that are used by software engineers as the starting point of the design. Means the system requirement is the expand version of the user requirement that are used by the software engineers, nothing but software developer, as the starting point of the system design. Means they are going to use system requirement for the development of the application or software by the software engineers. They add detail explain how the user requirement should be provided by the system. Means they are going to add the details and explain how user requirement should be provided by the system. This is give the detail by the system engineers. Okay, next, ideally The system requirement should simply describe the external behavior of the system and its operational constraints. Means what should the system requirement contain? Nothing but external behavior of the system and the operational constraint. Nothing but operational limits should be present in the system requirement. They should not be concerned with how the system should be designed or implemented. Okay. Next, however, at the level of detail required to completely specify a complex software system, it is practically impossible to exclude all design information. Means here we cannot exclude some of the design information also, because it is impossible, practically impossible to exclude all the design information. Some of the design information also present, because we cannot practically impossible to exclude all the design information. There are several reasons for this. Why you cannot exclude all the design information means there are several reasons for that. What are the several reasons we shall see here? Okay, you may have a design and Intel architecture of the system to help structure the requirement specification. The system requirements are organized according to the different subsystems that make up the system. Means here I have to explain the some different subsystems to make the system. Means subsystem also here you have to explain for the how to work our architecture we are going to get of complete structure. Means you have to explain the subsystem in detail. Okay, in most cases system must interrupt with existing system which constrain the design and impose requirement on the new system. Okay, means in most of the cases system must interrupt with existing system. Means you have to compare with the existing system. It constrain the design and impose requirement on the new system. So why you are going to interrupt with the existing system? It will helpful for the creating the new system. Okay, the use of specific structure to satisfy non-functional requirement such as n version program to achieve reliability. Here we are going to use the specific structure to satisfy non-functional requirement. Suppose I have to satisfy our non-functional requirement means using specific structure only, we can satisfy non-functional requirement. What is the specific structure? Here we can use n version programming to achieve reliability. To reliability have to do n version programming. Okay, this is why cannot exclude all design information in the system requirement. These are the three reasons. Okay, next, the possible notation that should be used for writing the system requirement. I told that we should use natural languages, designs like diagram notation we can use for writing the requirement. Okay, these are the five notation we can use for writing the system requirement. First one is natural language statements. Nothing but natural language sentence, structured natural language, design description language, graphical notation, mathematical specification. Using this notation, we can write the system requirement. Okay, what is this natural language sentence? The requirement are written using numbered sentence in natural language. Such sentence should express one requirement. Means they are telling that you have to give numbering like 1. You should write one sentence. 2 point, you should write one requirement. 3, another, like that you have to give numbering for each of the requirement. That is only they are telling that each sentence should express one requirement. We are writing 1 2 3 like this, means this 1 will explain one requirement, 2 will explain another requirement, 3 will explain third requirement. Okay, we should give the numbering in order. Okay, that natural language sentence means we are going to explain requirement in our natural English language. Okay, next one is structural natural language. The requirements are written in natural language on a standard form or template. Means using some tables like this, we are going to write the requirement in our natural English language. Or using from template means using one blueprint like table, or like using arrows. We are going to give one structure and we are going to write the requirement in natural language. Okay, that is structural language. Next one is design description language. Okay, what is this design description language? This approach uses a language like programming language but with more abstract features to specific the requirement by defining an operational models of the system. This approach is now rarely used, although it can be useful for interface specification. Means design description language. Here we are using language like programming language like C, C++, Java. Okay, but this is rarely using in this days because this C is not understanding by our normal users. So it is very rarely we are using nowadays. Next we move on to graphical notation. Graphical model. Next, graphical notation. Graphical model supplemented by text notation means means replacing text notation. We are using this graphical models are used to define the functional requirement of the system. Why this graphical notation are used? To define the functional requirement for the system. Or UML, use case and sequence diagrams are commonly used. In graphical notation, we are going to use UML use case or sequence diagrams are commonly used. What is meant by UML? UML nothing but Unified Modeling Language. This will be explained in next model. Okay, what is this UML use case model? That will be explained in next upcoming model. Okay, means nothing but we are going to represent the requirements in the some using diagram. In diagrams, you are using some symbols or notation arrows like this you are going to use, and are going to explain the requirement in diagram, that is graphical notation. Next, mathematical specification. These notations are based on mathematical concepts unifit such as finite state machines or sets. Means this notation are based on the mathematical concept such as finite state machine or status. Okay, means using some mathematical notation we are going to show the finite state machines and states. Although this unambiguous specification can reduce the ambiguity in a requirement document, most customer does not understand the formal specification. Okay, they cannot check that it re- re- represent what they want and are ready to accept it as a system contract. Okay, means it is also a unambiguous specification. Means it is this formal, this mathematical specification cannot be understand easily. Okay, because the formal specification easily cannot be understand. Okay, these are the notations used to write the system requirements. Okay, in this natural language sentence, structural natural language, natural language, design description language, graphical notation, mathematical specification. In next video we are going to discuss in detail natural language specification and structure specification. Okay, okay, we will going to discuss in detail natural language sentence structure natural language in next video. Thank you.